Yes, Suella Braverman out, rumours of Grant Shapps in. We'll have to wait and see about that. Downing Street at pains to deny the fact that Braverman was sacked. I'm still joined in the studio by Olivia Utley, I'll be going to shortly, but before that I've got GBNews' political editor Darren McCaffrey joining us from Westminster. Darren, I'm surprised that building behind you isn't on fire.
Well, it may not be, but there's a sense, isn't there, a feeling that the government this afternoon is somewhat on fire, or at least is struggling to put out the constant fires that pop up all over the place at the moment. As you say, within the last, 10, 15 minutes or so, it's essentially been confirmed that Suella Braverman is now departing as Home Secretary. We're not entirely sure whether she has resigned of her own accord, or what seems more likely, that effectively she's been sacked or fired as the Home Secretary. Now, why would that be? Well, we know there are some fundamental differences between what had been the Home Secretary's position, particularly on issues like migration. She was concerned about the government tilting towards allowing potentially more foreign workers into the UK to deal with the shortage of workers that we're seeing in many sectors of the economy. She was not in favour of that, felt that that was a betrayal somewhat of the Brexit deal that had been done with the British public. Whereas Liz Truss and probably almost certainly Jeremy Hunt favoured it to try and boost the economy at this difficult time. So it does seem that may be the issue, the crunch point. However, there have been suggestions that Suella Braverman has been briefing against the government, using the Home Office as a platform to do so, though she was pretty robust and defensive in the House of Commons only yesterday. But you know what? This is, Patrick, a constant reminder of the difficulties the government find themselves in. Just when there was a sense, after PMQs today and the fact that the markets had calmed down yesterday, that Liz Truss, while not necessarily on the front foot, was somewhat stabilising things, that here we have it, that she is losing her Home Secretary, to the disappointment, it must be said, of many MPs who backed her, not least in the leadership contest during the summer. All suggestions, as you say, not confirmed, that Grant Shapps may be taking over that role. Now, he was Transport Secretary under Boris Johnson, someone who's a pretty influential backbencher in the sense that he can coordinate things behind the scenes, though he's seen as performing pretty well in transport. Interesting, though, he, like Jeremy Hunt, backed Rishi Sunak. And there is a sense, in order to hold on to power here, Patrick, what is happening is that Liz Truss is having to get rid of some of the people that she appointed to the cabinet only weeks ago, and Suella Braverman may well be the shortest serving Home Secretary of all time.
Well,
and appointing people who backed Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, this is it. I've got that here. Apparently she's the shortest serving Home Secretary since 1945, the third shortest Home Secretary in history, although not in terms of height, because I'm absolutely certain that was Priti Patel. Rumours that it was a security issue. We will be going to Mark White shortly, of course, our Home and Security editor, who might be able to shed a bit more light on that. But yes, it is speculation, Darren, but potentially that security issue in relation to her briefing against the government, possibly over a visa scheme. Is that right? Are you hearing anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that mentioned, and I think that feeds into what I was just talking about there in terms of the briefing against the government and using the Home Office to do it. I'm sure details will emerge in the next coming hours, and also potentially who that replacement is, because it's not confirmed yet that Grant Shapps will take over. It is, of course, the reason that Liz Truss, the Prime Minister, cancelled a visit to a factory north of London earlier on this afternoon. She was due to talk to journalists there, got cancelled at the last minute, just after Prime Minister's question time. But again, it is a reminder, I think, of just the difficulties the Prime Minister finds herself in. That essentially now every day she's having to deal with these political crises, and it will get to a point, I'm afraid, I think, for Liz Truss and indeed for the government, where Conservative MPs behind me will simply think enough is enough. Are we there yet? I'm not entirely convinced we are, but frankly, you speak to Tory MPs, they say we cannot go on like this.